This video is sponsored by Dungeons & Dragons Questors. Big monsters can be intimidating, but actually they're some of the easiest models to paint. Let me show you why as I tackle this pit fiend with some really simple, straightforward techniques. I'm Peachy, and this is Peachy Tips. Now, doing this YouTubing malarkey does put you in a bit of a privileged position. I often get companies reaching out asking me to showcase some of their new rules or games or just send me miniatures to paint up. And it's really kind and very nice, but I don't have enough time to cover everything. And that sometimes is the curse. It's like there's a lot of cool things, but time stops me. And I always feel really bad because you can tell a lot of people have put heart and soul into the miniatures they made and just want me to showcase and show off their cool wares and their miniatures and their books that they've made. Now, recently, the Fantastic Art Studio founder, Henry Miranda, reached out and said, "Hey, Peachy, we like your channel, see what you do. We've got some models. Would you be interested? No strings attached. We'll send you on. Let us know what you think. And if you ever want to do anything down the line, that'd be cool." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure, cool. I can't promise anything. No strings attached." And again, this video is not sponsored by them. This is just me reacting to a really cool miniature that I got sent. Now, what I will say is I probably do not do the model justice in my paint guide. Obviously, the point of the paint guide is to get things painted quite quickly and to also make things seem slightly less intimidating when you come to painting your own monsters. And that's kind of the point of it. But yeah, when it turned up in the post, I was instantly hit by how premium this product truly is. So as you can even tell, just by the black box itself, it's got a nice magnetic little flip lid as well. So I always find those pretty swanky. So as you can see, when you open the lid, there is a load of sponge pre-cut with all the pieces neatly laid inside there, and they're all push fit, which is very nice. They're also pre-polished and cleaned up for you, so there's no prep involved whatsoever, so you can just push them together. I mean, eventually you want to glue them. Now, something to point out, initially I didn't glue mine together because I wanted to just try them all out, test fit it, but also when it came to spraying and undercoating them or priming them, I wanted to do some bits separately in different colours. So I didn't initially glue all the bits together. And that is something you can do at home when you get your own. Yeah, being able to like take things apart is a really big selling point for me, certainly from like a sub-assembly point of view, or if I want different things in different colours. So that's a big win for me. Now, the miniatures themselves are primer cast, which is a polyurethane blend engineered for superior precision and durability. In short, they're really good quality looking resin miniatures. I was blown away by the quality of it. You do get what you pay for. They are a bit more expensive than probably what you would normally pay for like normal standard like little 28mm figures and stuff like that. So like they range from like, I don't know, like a single miniature, which is £30. So that could be like a barbarian or a cleric or something, all the way up to like a dragon, which is like 260 quid. So it is worth remembering these are centerpieces. They are really high quality looking characters. I will probably add some extra colours to the model down the line or some extra details and whatever. But really what I wanted to kind of communicate from this video as well is you can have some really impressive centerpieces for your army. And I think my experience as a painter and a teacher as well is a lot of people do get put off by those and never get around to painting them because they are put off by them. So really the paint guide here is to just get you past that. And sometimes good is better than perfect, and you can always add perfect later. So really just using a couple of undercoats to get things started, a few dry brushes. Now I've been there plenty of times. I've been so invested in trying to get the thing perfect that I never actually get it done. And I get frustrated and I just put it to one side. And sometimes I never go back to them, which is such a shame. One, for the model, and also time that I've invested up to that point and never get back to it. So really the point of the paint guide is you can just do some real simple techniques and you can have a lot of fun with it and still get a really nice looking model at the end of it. And then over time, you can always add things to it or learn from it and then add that to the next model. So yes, granted, the paint job I will do does not do the quality of the miniatures justice, but it does get the thing painted. And honestly, this Pit Fiend is rad. It's really cool looking and it's going to fit so well into my Silver Bayonet games, my 5 Leagues from the Borderlands games, and Frostgrave, Oathmark. In fact, it could end up being the big bad that's behind the Pale Cross. So yeah, I've got ideas for where this miniature is going to fit into my narratives. Certainly from a Silver Bayonet point of view, it could be Obadiah Hakeswell returned. Could be. Or it could just be a big ass demon. I don't know. But yeah, I was really excited to get it painted. So it's not super detailed, but it's well detailed, if that makes sense. So it actually lends itself really well for, certainly from my point of view, for dry brushing or if you're airbrushing and stuff like that. So it's not like completely adorned in so many intricate little details. This is the other thing as well. Every single model that you get will be like signed by the artists. You'll know who the artist is. So this particular one has been designed and signed by a world-renowned sculptor, master sculptor, Alex Oliver, renowned for things such as World of Warcraft and Diablo and many more. So yes, knows their sculpting, and it's obvious it's got strong Diablo vibes, to be fair. I love how the wings frame around it as well. The blade looks really cool, like the big mace kind of thing, kind of ties in with like some of the details, but it's just got a really gnarly face. Again, all those details, especially with all like the cracking effects on its shoulders, sort of like that almost like scaly kind of skin, is just designed for dry brushing. So that's kind of the angle that the paint guide's going to take, is spray paint, dry brushing, my usual bag. And yeah, then I'm just going to use it in a load of games and have some fun with it. And yeah, my heroes are going to have to try and take down a demon now. I mean, another thing as well is they're going to be perfect for things like Dungeons and Dragons. So when you're on your adventures and this, that and the other, just slip the Pit Fiend in there. And obviously there's loads of other characters on fantastic art studios as well that you can look at for D&D. Speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, let's hear from today's sponsor. I've spent many years painting dragons, building dungeons and telling fantasy stories, but every adventurer has to start somewhere. Though not his first experience with the fantasy world, today however Charlie is heading off on his very first D&D quest. We've got these new Dungeons and Dragons Questors mystery packs, and honestly neither of us knows what's inside. There's a whole bunch of different types of packs to open. The D20 packs unleash creatures into your collection. The towers provide you with mighty adventurers. All the parts are interchangeable, so you can really let your imagination fly, or have your bard literally fly. And then there's the huge egg. Within these gargantuan sets are monsters, the mightiest of beasts for your heroes to vanquish. And there's even a story card and a D20 in every set to really get your imagination rolling. Now the important question, what adventure are we going to do first? Slay the dragon, best his little minions, or just make friends with a whole lot and chill out in the garden and have a picnic maybe? I don't know, I'll leave that to Charlie. Now I love anything that gets kids away from a screen and using their full imagination, and these are a really fun way to introduce younger audiences and adventurers into the world of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm also eyeing up those towers for a future scenery project. So if you're looking to start someone on the very first quest, you can find Questors now on Amazon and at Target. So gather your party before venturing forth. So to begin with, I've used Reliquary Red, which is a Colourforge red undercoat. And the first thing I'm going to do is use some Beret Maroon as my initial dry brush. It's a little bit lighter than the Reliquary Red. Now you can see at the back here, this is obviously where the wings attached, so there is a little bit of a void, but you know what, bit of a dry brush over. It's going to hide a fair amount of that, and I can always drop some darker colours in the recesses if I need to. So all I'm going to do is just work my way around, picking out all the raised areas. Now usually my first coat of dry brushing tends to have a little bit less paint wiped off, and it's more like a wet brush, so it's picking out a lot of those raised areas, giving it a bit of a base coat, but also, as you can see, sitting on the wings here, it is picking out the raised bits, but still leaving darker bits in those deeper, darker cracks. Sometimes with dry brushing, the first pass can be a little bit scratchy, but when you go back over it for a second pass, it tends to help blend it back in again. So don't be too concerned if you find some scratchy little bits here or a little couple of scuffs. A second coat will always fix that. Then I'm going to move on to some Blood Chalice. So this is a little bit lighter than Berry Maroon. It's a little bit pinkier as well, which is great for flesh tones because it's got a bit of a fleshiness to it. I'm just applying this a little bit lighter. I've removed a fair bit more than I did on the previous step. I'm just going around picking out those raised areas. So this is just a natural process of doing dry brushing. You will start to pick out the raised bits. As I mentioned earlier as well, several passes over with a dry brush will slowly build up that colour and give it a little bit more strength, a little bit more punch, and well, just will look better. One pass over with a dry brush isn't always the best, so sometimes you do need to do a couple here and there. Now something I like to do with characters or bigger monsters once I've done a dry brush is get that same colour and just do a couple of little highlights here and there. This is the step you don't have to do, it's just something I like to do, just adds a little bit more definition. You can always go a bit lighter as well if you wish to. I'm quite happy with the Blood Chalice as a colour, so I'm just going around picking out a few extremities, veins, a bit of muscle. Certainly around the face, that tends to be a lot of the areas I tend to concentrate on with monsters and characters and stuff like that. So just picking out the odd little wrinkle, lips, ears, nose, brows, that kind of stuff. But yeah, just work your way around, pick out the things or areas that you feel could just do with a little bit more punch if you wanted to. Like I said, this is super optional. It's just something I like to do. Then for the gold details or brass, I'm going to use a nice dark gold. This is from the John Blanche paint set, so this is Emperor's Gold. So I'm just going around picking out all those details. So he's got his nice big belt buckle and obviously the metal bits around his belt as well. Girdle. Maybe it's a girdle. Let's go with girdle. That's probably a better word. But yeah, just one coat's more than enough, but you can always do a second coat. Tend to find gold goes over reds quite nicely anyway. And then he's got his evil demonic star around his necklace, and of course the chains that's holding it. I'm just going to do the chains the same colour. Now for his staff weapon or his big mace, I'm just going to dry brush this because I sprayed this separately because they're detachable. I sprayed it brown or Hyrax brown, and I'm just dry brushing over with Emperor Gold. It will have a different finish with it being dry brushed over brown than being base coated over that red. So using the same colour, you will get two different finishes on the model. And again, the bottom half as well of his hilt or the lower part of the mace. Then for a highlight on the actual mace itself, I'm just going to get some mithril and just dry brush this over. So that's just going to pick out all the edges, extremities. Again, it's a bit like the blood chalice kind of level of dry brush, so not too much pressure, not too much paint on there, just picking out the raised areas. Now for the dark gold or brass details on his girdle and other areas on the body, I'm just going to use some grim dark shadow. So I'm just going to apply this all over. This again is one of the John Blanche paints. It's one of the shades. It's a really nice colour. I often use AK Deep Shade, the Black Knight one, for a lot of my shades. And this is very similar to it, actually. So it's a really nice colour. It's got a bit of a greeniness to it as well, which is great. So I'm just going all over with that and also doing it on the mace too. Now there's a whole bunch of details on this model that I'm going to pick out with black, and I'm going to thin it down at different levels. For his loincloth, I'm just going to use Grim Black straight from the pot. So I'm just going all over that with Grim Black. Some of the red will show through. That's fine. I can do a second coat if I need to. But honestly, it kind of gives it a really, really dark red kind of look. Almost like off black kind of red. And I quite like that. Which in a way gives it a bit of a highlight as well. So if you didn't want to do any more steps or any highlighting, it's quite straightforward and easy for you. Just a really, really dark red. Here I'm going to channel a little bit of Tim McCurry's character from Legend, Lord Darkness. Very red with black horns. I always thought that looked quite cool. So yeah, you can do the horns whatever kind of colour you want to. I just like doing them black. You can always gloss them as well. Just in a little bit round where the skin meets the horns as well. So just add a little bit of water to your Grim Black. And I've kind of done that here as well. So I've just slightly thinned it down. So a paintbrush of each really. A paintbrush of water, paintbrush of Grim Black for some of the lighter areas. Don't forget his nails. Nice, long, black fingernails, kind of matches in with the horns as well. So yeah, just go around picking out any horny bits or any spiky bits or toes, claws, that kind of stuff. And again, do a second coat if you feel it needs it. Now some of these carapace, chitin kind of areas on the model, I thought I'll just use that thin down coat of Grim Black I used earlier around the back of the head as well. So again, just for that, it's a paintbrush of water and a paintbrush of Grim Black. For a nice little bit of thin down, and again it will show some of that red through as well. What I like to do as well is like be fairly neat initially on the edge so it doesn't go on to the other parts of the model, and then just work in from there after. So that's a little bit of a top tip there if you are worried about getting on other areas, but you can always soak up with a brush if you need to. With that dry, I'm just going to give it a little bit of highlight of Blood Chalice. As opposed to going down the grey route, I thought I'd give it a bit more of a red finish as well. Again, depending on how well you thinned it down, some of that red will show through anyway, but I thought I'd give it a little bit of a red highlight here and there. I thought I'd attach the wings on here so you can see the wings with the black claws as well. Again, I've not glued it on, not yet. And then what I'm going to do now is get some grey castle and then just pick out his big old gnashes, his big shiny teeth. I could have done them black, but I actually thought they looked quite nice, like a bone kind of colour. If you do hear some noises in the background, I do apologise. There is a dog eating a chew behind me, so I'm sorry for that random background noise. Then what I'm going to do is get a little bit of mithril, a bit like when I was dry brushing the mace. I'm just going to do a little bit here and there on the belt buckle and the star and his girdle, and then just highlight some of those chain links just by hand with some mithril as well. Again, it's up to you. You don't have to do that. If you liked it as it was, keep it at that. Then I'm going to get some warp yellow, fairly strong kind of colour anyway. Just going to do a couple of little dots for the eyes. Now, when I did this left eye here, it was a bit of a bigger dot, so I thought, you know what, I'll balance that back out and make the other eye dot a little bit bigger as well. Just big, fiery, infernal glow coming from his eyes. Thought that looked pretty cool. Very scary. And I'm going to use that same yellow on the little flamey thing that he has in his hand. So I've taken that out. Initially, accidentally sprayed it brown, but I resprayed that white and just going back over now with some warp yellow. You could do this with speed paints, contrast, entirely up to you. Then I'm going to do a series of dry brushes. So I'm going to get some legendary red. And what I'm going to do with that initially is just dry brush over some of the raised areas, leaving as much of the yellow in the cracks as I can. Again, I'm not being super precious about this. I'm stabbing in places, dry brushing in others. So it's a bit of a stipple and a dry brush at the same time. You could go with a slightly darker red as well if you wanted to. But what I did was I just jumped straight to black to give it more of a smoky finish. So it looks like it's moving from fiery hot flame to a bit of smoke. I just kind of like doing it. It's a very nice detailed piece of flame. Works really, really well. And if you want to, in some of the recesses, if it's gone a bit wishy-washy or you've dry brushed by accident, just get some of that warp yellow, thin it down and just go in the cracks if you feel it needs it. Now, for his mace, I kind of like the colour. It's not quite verdigris, but I really like gold green over metallics, certainly brasses and coppers and stuff like that. So it kind of feels a bit verdigris, but it just gives it a bit more of a sickly kind of look. So all I'm doing is just applying that over the mace. So you could say maybe it's verdigris, or it could just be like some weird demonic metal. But I like the look of it. I like the green on this kind of brass tone, and it works quite well with the red as well. So it's more of a nuance, and I thought it would visually look cooler. Don't know, sometimes I just do that. I just find a colour, I pick it, I think, oh, that'll work, that looks cool. Sometimes there's no thought to it other than that. And you might find that when you're doing it yourself. You think that colour looks cool, and I do that. Then I'm going to get some deep grey and just dry brush at the base of his loincloth, and you could always do like some of the higher bits as well. It's entirely up to you, but what I also like to do is my jaggedy highlights. So if you're not confident with highlighting, you don't have to do this, but I tend to do lots of little stabs, just lots of little taps and stabs. You don't have to be super neat lines if you don't want it to be. And it makes the cloth look a little bit tatty as well. So it's a nice way of doing that. And then the evil eye inside his necklace. So I'm going to start with Legendary Red. That was one of the colours I dry brushed the fire with. So this would tie in with the flame a bit. Drop in some warp yellow as well. And then you could go to white, but I had a little bit of grey castle still. So I thought, you know what? I'll just drop a little bit of grey castle just in the dot there. Kind of looks kind of light. It works for me. And with pretty much everything painted, it's just a matter of reattaching all those things. I really love the fact, actually, that these are quite good fits, but also you can just take bits off, do a bit of a sub-assembly, paint some things separately. It works really, really well, and I'm really pleased that I could do that. What a kit. What a great kit. Base. Now, I did make a bit of a boo-boo when I sprayed the base. I didn't shake the can up enough, or it was just a bit too warm, and it got a bit fuzzy and textured. But I leant into it. I thought, you know what? I don't mind that. It kind of adds to the texture of the scenery. Kind of matches in with my scenery collections anyway. So all I'm going to do is get some grey castle and dry brush over that. Like I said, sorry to the sculptor. Sorry, Alex, Oliver. I ruined your base a little bit. I hope you can forgive me. But yeah, just adding in a little bit of that gold green as well. And then I'll have some grass tufts later on as well. I've not decided what colour grass tufts. I want it to tie in with my silver bayonet and also my fantasy stuff. So really, this kind of matches the scenery I use for both. So it hasn't got the sort of sandy kind of tones I use for my fantasy basing, and it hasn't got the muddy tones that I use for my silver bayonet basing, but it matches the scenery for both of those sets. I tend to do a lot of my scenery with a kind of green spray with a grey spray and a bit of a bony dry brush. So that kind of is why I went with this colour scheme. So it will fit with both collections or ranges or games and many more beyond. So there we are, our Pit Fiend is done. Honestly, I'm super chuffed with the paint job. I know it's quite basic, I know it's quite simple, the techniques were super simple, but again, it's that thing that I really enjoyed it, and sometimes not going too far, not going too much with it, you do have more fun. And I found most of my favourite projects have been the simplest of techniques and have just been done quite quickly. And that's something to bear in mind when you are doing your own painting at home, is if something looks intimidating, just go with some simple techniques to start off with, get some colours on it, block it out with a few like base coats, do a little bit of dry brushing, and before you know it, actually you're over halfway through the painting process and you've enjoyed it a lot more than probably what you realised you were gonna. I mean, at the end of the day, it's entirely up to you as the viewer. It's your choice, it's your time, it's your hobby. You do what you want. If you want to spend forever on a miniature, spend forever on a miniature. I like to get things painted within a certain time period. I tend to find if I spend a little bit longer on something, I start to lose my enthusiasm for it. So that's one of the things that is a Peach thing. I know I'm not alone in that, which is why I do the paint guides I do. And also I try and like bust myths or make things less intimidating. That's kind of the point of the paint guides, really. But yeah, you don't have to agree with how I painted this miniature. You don't even have to copy the way I painted this miniature. It's just the way I like to do things, the way I like to tackle stuff. If it helps people out there, great. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are about painting monsters and stuff. Do you want to just get them on the tabletop ASAP and have some fun and play some games? Do you get them up to a certain point and then add details later? Or are you one of those that just likes to take a little bit longer and enjoy the process? Which is all of those are right. All of those are absolutely right. I have my own way of doing it. But thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. Thank you to Henry and Fantastic Art Studios for just making me aware of their cool miniatures. If any of you guys out there as well in the comments have got other like company ranges you think, oh Peachy, you should check these out, drop them in. It's always nice to see new ones, because obviously I randomly get people reach out. I also get you guys in the comments, because the comment section on Peachy Tips is the best. They come up with the best suggestions and the great ideas. Recently I did a video about painting my Stargate crew, and a few people recommended an anime called Gate, so thank you for that. Been watching that, really enjoying that. I did stumble across that on a YouTube, like there was like a couple of like YouTube videos of like some battles between knights and soldiers. I was like, oh, this is interesting, but there was never actually a description as to where it's from, so now I know. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it, seeing modern day soldiers taking on knights and orcs and stuff like that. Yeah, very Forgotten Ruin-esque. I'm pretty certain the Pit Fiend's going to find its way into Forgotten Ruin as well. It's gonna go into everything. It's a great model. Really enjoyed painting it. I can't stress that enough. I had a lot of fun painting this guy, and I really like him. I will add like a little bit more highlights probably to the face, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm chuffed with him. One thing I will say, which I don't think I mentioned in the paint guide, well, I kind of briefly did, is I've really screwed up the spray on the base. It was the green spray. I think I didn't shake it up enough, or I had the can further apart, and you get all that the dust particles that settle, and it really added like a kind of a mossy texture to the base, which you could easily clean up if you get like some nail varnish remover, isopropanol alcohol. You could just apply that on that'll remove the paint. But actually for me, it added like a texture to it. Now I know, sorry Alex Oliver, who spent hours sculpting this model, like I kind of ruined the base of this, but I was going to add like textured paint to it anyway in grass tuff, so it kind of gave it a bit more of a textured effect. So it was a happy mistake. And I leaned into that, and that's something to bear in mind. Sometimes these things happen, and there are ways of fixing them. So just getting like, you know, isopropanol alcohol and using a brush or like sponge or whatever to try and remove the paint, or toothbrush as well. I've done that with miniatures, just delving it in and getting the toothbrush and scrubbing it off. So if you do find that happens, there are ways of cleaning up. But I kept it. I leaned into it because it added that nice bit of like weathering and texture to it. Some people will be like, that looks awful. Don't care. I think it looks great, and it fits in with all the other scenery I've got, so it's fine. But yeah, love you all. Take care. She's right down here, by the way. If anyone's asking, she's right down here, fast asleep. Not Mrs. Peach, that is. It's the dog, Frankie. She's just chilling out. She was chewing all sorts of stuff around here a minute ago, but now she's had enough. She's tired out from chewing my boxes. At least she didn't chew that box, or the Pit Fiend. That would have been hell. Right. Catch you in the next one. Slaters taters.